go. Welcome to Chromatic Counsel, the podcast where we dive into the journey of attorneys, their successes, challenges, and of course, their go to wardrobe colors. I'm your host, Carrie Heaps, and I have got a great show lined up for you today. As a body language contributor, I didn't have enough coffee this morning, clearly, guys.
Right.
I do help attorneys make powerful first impressions, build confidence, and master the art of nonverbal communication. And speaking of nonverbal communication, have you seen the Bodies Don't Lie boot camp? If you haven't, there's a link in the show notes. I would love to have you join us and learn more about how you can use color, body language, face reading, and voice reading, a new thing I just added, all in one. So today's guest, I have got a great show lined up, so we're going to jump right in. But our guest today is Lauren Fernandez. And with over a decade of experience in recruiting, Lauren Fernandez brings a strong entrepreneurial background and a people first approach to talent acquisition. Now, before co founding Palm Coast Staffing, it's a national recruiting firm specializing in legal industry roles. Lauren built and scaled a successful sales and customer service company to 100 employees across 3 states. Today, she partners with law firms across the country to help them hire smarter and more strategically. Outside of work, you'll find her hiking with her dogs or exploring the country in an RV with her family. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you here as well. If you could tell me a little bit more and our audience as well, like what kind of attracted you to the staffing industry?
So that is, it's kind of a joke in the recruiting space that nobody ever grows up wanting to be a recruiter. You kind of just accidentally find it or accidentally fall into it. Um, Growing up as a kid, though, I was a weird kid. I always wanted to know how people got the jobs that they got. And then, you go into the city, we got these big, tall buildings, and I thought whatever name was on the building was the company. And I wanted to know what jobs those people had. And then I discovered that there's multiple companies in those jobs, and I wanted to, or in those buildings, and I wanted to know how did people get those jobs in those small companies in those buildings? So strange kid. But I guess, that's literally what I do today. And then I always wanted to have my own business. So kind of merged those things as I've grown up. But kind of how we got started officially in the recruiting space is shortly after my husband and I got married. We moved from Illinois down to Florida, and we started our um, sales and marketing company that specialized in customer service for companies like DirecTV, AT&T, and I did all of the recruiting for it. So I, did all the onboarding. Is kind of how we got started, kind of more of an internal focus. We ended up selling the company after a few years, and then I went and worked for one of the very large, well-known recruiting agencies. And that's kind of where I got my intro into legal recruiting because I was doing administrative, like office admin, accounting, that kind of thing. But the people behind me were doing legal recruiting. And I loved their conversations. They were telling me what they were doing, who they were meeting, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So fast forward, here we are.
And obviously, your Palm Coast Staffing, you specialize,
Mhm.
it's predominantly law, the law field. So why, I mean, is it because you were in that background? You already had uh, experience with that? Is that why you all focus on that particular segment?
Yeah, so shortly after leaving the large agency, I went and worked for a smaller one that specialized in insurance recruiting. Um, and as anybody in the legal space knows, insurance and legal, a lot of it goes hand in hand. And so I was starting to build out their legal practice. And then at the same time, my husband was the head of marketing for a couple law firms in the Fort Myers, Cape Coral area. And then we decided, he's got all these great contacts and network. I've got this great contacts and network. Why don't we just join and start our own thing? And so we started Palm Coast Staffing back in 2022 now.
Wonderful. Now, you
Hmm.
work with predominantly attorneys. So, for any attorneys that are listening right now that are looking for work, what are 3 tips that you would offer them to kind of help them tighten up their job search?
I would say the absolute number one thing that they should do even before they begin starting to look for a new job, is networking. Networking is going to be the thing that is going to make all the difference. So my dad always said it's, who you know gets you in the door, what you know keeps you there. And it's very true, especially in the legal industry because it's so tight knit. Everybody knows everybody. And so building those relationships, I can't tell you how many times I've submitted somebody and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've known so and so for 20 years. We don't even need to interview them. Yeah, we're gonna go forward with the process." Um, so that's really how it's who you know is really the best thing that you can do for your job search. And then I think also learning what other practice areas are out there. So not siloing yourself, get out there. Maybe you are right now you're in, like insurance defense and you're doing property, but you really want to get into like med mal or something. So start meeting people that are in that practice area. I mean, LinkedIn is great for that. Start listening to podcasts about it. Start becoming an expert on that, volunteering to take on some of that work so that you can get your foot in the door and decide, is this something that I actually want to do before you jump ship and take on a completely new role. Would be the two main things. And then obviously the most obvious one is find a really great recruiter. Um, Not every recruiter is for every person, so interview your recruiter just as much as they're interviewing you. And find one that aligns with and understands with what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that last one so much. And as you know, which we've talked about this before, I have
Mhm,
a staffing background too. Before I went out on my own many years ago, I did a split desk, I did business development, and I did
mhm,
recruiting. And the one thing that really still sticks in my mind after all these years is I had a candidate, we did high level IT and admin
mhm,
placements. And I remember I did mostly, it was kind of like on the site, I did business development and, I was out in the field talking to companies. And I had a woman who wrote me a letter and mailed it to me. And she said, I know that you are the one who's, you go and you
mhm.
find, I'm employed right now, but I am actively looking, um, confidentially looking for a position. And she said, these are my qualifications, this is my resume. If you find any openings or if you see where I could fit into this particular company, please keep me in mind. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow. And I mean, even that was just like, again, all these years later, that's what sticks in my head is her doing that. Sometimes it's those out of the box things.
Yeah, well, so there's really kind of two styles of recruiting, if you will. So there's a very transactional, hey, I've got this seat open, I need to get it filled immediately. Do you fit? Do you not fit? And if you don't fit, ghost you.
Mhm,
Then there's a second one that's much more of that strategic long term,
mhm,
where it's like, hey, I've known you for 3 years. I've sent you on this interview. I've sent you on that interview. For whatever reason, it's just not quite the right fit, but I know who you are. And then I've got my clients who I know what they want. And sometimes it works out. The timing is right. This position opens up with this partner or shareholder, and they match perfectly with this person over here. And it's a perfect match. Um, but that doesn't happen overnight. It's, the constant relationship building of, years and years. Like some of these people I've known for 3 to 5 years. So I know their whole story. They've gone, maybe they've been at one firm and then they've been at another firm, or they've stayed at the same one. And I know their whole story because I've known them for so long. And then that one role opens up and I'm like, all right, Susan, this is the one, this is your role. And then they go and interview and it ends up being right. But you don't chase shiny. Don't just go and move to move because the grass is greener on the other side. If you're going to move, make sure that you're working with a recruiter who understands the long-term trajectory of your career, and can get you that position when the time is right. Not just, hey, we'll put a round peg in a square hole kind of thing.
exactly. Now, if we were to flip that question for the law firms that are listening,
Mhm.
or the smaller firms that need to add to their staff, what are three tips that you would offer them as they're starting their search?
Um, I would say kind of what we're seeing right now, believe it or not, remote is great, but remote is not everything anymore. A lot of people are missing going back into the office. Um, there's kind of that osmosis learning that is a lot of the younger associates are missing out on. So, having office and FaceTime is really important. So, a lot of people are understanding that. So, I think it's more of having it more of like an understanding of like a hybrid option, like, hey, daycare's closed again because all the kids are sick. I need to work from home. I don't need to take the day off, but I need to work from home. So kind of having that like adult trust or respect is a big thing that people are looking for now. Um, I think again for law firms, have if you have an HR recruiting team, have them going to the local networking events, have them going to the different bar association gatherings, getting out there, getting to know people. It definitely is a candidate market right now. There is a lot of competition, especially in some of the bigger cities here in Florida. Everybody's fighting over the same people. So, what can you do to show that you're different? And it's not just salary. Salary is obviously a big part of it, but what's the work-life balance like? You say unlimited PTO. Is it really unlimited PTO or is it unlimited PTO, but I'm so busy I can't ever use it unlimited? What does the support structure look like? What is, if I want to be a partner, what does that track look like? Um, and then also, I think understanding that success looks different for different people at different times. So when you've created this role or when you are creating this role, what does a successful person look like in that role? Do they need to be somebody that wants to make partner, or do you want somebody that is more of, a really, really good associate that doesn't necessarily want to make partner, but is really, really good at what they're doing? And so kind of figuring that out before you go into the interview process, what key things do you want out of the interview? Um, which will help figure out what kinds of questions you want to ask and what you're looking for. That
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So, with that, what makes a good referral for you and for Palmco staffing right now, as far as like a candidate's concerned that could be looking at a law firm? So, like if somebody's like, hey, I have somebody Lauren might want to talk to, what does that ideal candidate look like on both sides?
So I would say as far as referrals for firms, typically we work, our sweet spot has kind of been in that mid-level, mid-size firm. So anything between, I mean, 50 would be kind of on the smaller side, but a head count of like 50 to like 500 seems to kind of be our sweet spot. Um, we're open to working with smaller firms. A lot of times I'll do more coaching with them and how to interview, depending on the practice area and what they've got going on. So kind of more of that mid-sized law firm. We do work in all practice areas on a national level. We do work with a lot of in-house as well, like corporate in-house roles. And then as far as candidates, um, we're looking for people that, they take their career seriously, who are not just, like I was saying, chasing shiny, that are going to be just jumping ship every 3 months to find that new role.
Mhm.
I know that there's a lot of information out there about, the only way to get a salary increase is by moving every 2 years. But you do that too many times, and then you've created a pattern and you become less desirable as a hire because people are going to be like, oh, well, the last 3 year or last three positions, 2 years on the dot, you made a move. You're going to do that with me. Um, and so, somebody that has that kind of long-term approach to their career, um, is the ones that we're able to benefit the most. So, obviously, if you're actively looking, we can help you as well. Um, but typically, it tends to be more people like that, the long term.
Okay, great. And as far as candidates are concerned, is there any particular like uh, personal injury, insurance defense? Is there anything right now that you're like, wow, I have a lot of open positions for this particular role?
Yes, all the above.
All of the above.
All
Okay.
the above.
Oh,
If
gotcha.
you live in Jacksonville, please call me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good to know. Good to
Yeah,
know.
I have several roles in Jacksonville, Florida right now. I actually have a couple out in California, um, a couple in-house roles in Exton, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, a couple in-house roles in Texas, as well as with some firms. So we've actually got a lot going on right now, which is good. I will never complain about being busy. So a lot of different things. We also have not only do we have our associate and partner roles, but we also have a couple administrative roles. We have a bookkeeper role that is open. We just closed an HR role a few months ago. So our roles really we span the gamut of anything under the roof of a law firm is kind of how we say it, is what we work on.
Awesome. Now, as you know, the name of the show, it's Chromatic Counsel. So this is like always
Hmm.
one of my very favorite questions I love to ask everybody.
Hmm.
But do you have a certain color or go-to outfit that you're like, oh, I always, these are the colors I like to wear, whether it's like for interviewing people, or
Hmm.
do you have like that favorite go-to outfit that always closes deals?
My favorite color, if you can't tell by the logo and the tree in my dress, is green. Always has been. So that is my go-to color. I would say though, if I'm prepping somebody to do an interview, I always recommend that they wear a navy blue suit. Black is too formal. It looks like you're going to a funeral.
Mhm.
Navy blue is a good color. It's kind of that neutral, professional. Um, I know down here in Florida, sometimes we like our colors, but I think that navy blue, white shirt, or a nice dress shirt underneath, is always good. When you're going to an interview, especially the first interview, I always tell candidates that the person interviewing you is going to be assessing you as if you're sitting across from their client. So what is that first impression that their client is going to get when you walk in the room? Um, that's really what an interview is. And so, if you walk in the room, can they trust you with their clients? Are you going to be able to get clients? Does your body language, does your appearance, does it reflect that of what the experience that the firm is trying to give to their clients? So I think if you want, go onto the website of the firm, go pull up all the associates, the team page and see what everybody's wearing and kind of match that. Bring that energy that they're trying to create to the interview is what I would recommend.
And I love navy because it's blue. Blue's our trust building color, so I agree
Hmm.
that's a great. It's blues are always a good color to wear, I think, for interviews, and that's why I wore navy today because of
Good
our
color.
interview today. Exactly, because it's a trust building color. So yeah, and just in closing, is there anything
Mhm.
you'd like to share with everybody that's coming up for Palm Coast staffing, or anything that you just kind of want to make them aware of, other than the positions that you have right now that you're needing filled in those areas?
Um, Nothing that I would necessarily want to bring up specifically. I would say some takeaways that I would like people to think about, though, would be that even though AI is great and we're all kind of getting into this AI space, nothing is going to replace the human element of hiring. It's very much a people business for people. And so you can make as many search engines and filters and whatever other fancy shiny things that are coming up that could be helpful. At the end of the day, you're having a conversation with a human to join a human team. And you can't get away from that. So I think that is something that's very important. Which I mean, our tagline is bringing the human element back to hiring, which is very apropos. And I did it before AI became a thing, but it works out great now. So I would say that, and then really again, just networking, get out there. I know everybody says that they're scared to network, but when you go into a room realizing that everybody else is just as uncomfortable, it kind of takes the fear away.
Absolutely. And Lauren, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. And I do have all of Lauren's contact information, the link to the site, so you can see the open positions. That's in the show notes below. And that is a wrap for today's episode of Chromatic Counsel. I hope you found inspiration and insight. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure that you click on the subscribe and the like button. And feel free to share the show with another attorney that you feel could use a little color in their life, whether that's inside the courtroom or outside of the courtroom. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, there is a link in the show notes below where you can apply to be a guest. And that's it for now. Until next time, I am wishing everyone continued success.